You've been waiting for a splash to come. Well, the Chiefs just made it in signing Hollywood Brown as their over-the-top deep threat wide receiver. This is what we're talking about on this bonus episode of Breaking News on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. We're brought to you by Game Time. You can sign up at Game Time. Get that app. Use our code LOCKDOWN to get $20 off your first purchase. This is a breaking news bonus as the Chiefs have finally made a splash in that wide receiver market that's been a little bit interesting so far. We appreciate you being with us. This is going to be our initial rundown of immediate reaction. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, as well as RGR Football, and he's Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. You can find us here 5 days a week, plus make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. Chris, just enough time to go over the details here. Hollywood Brown, formerly of Arizona, had been traded there specifically for Kyler Murray's needs, now provides a lift in terms of the deep ball. This has been theorized for a while on and off, but it's been pretty quiet. Now the trigger's pulled. What do you make of it?
I love it. I think it's a great fit for Kansas City. I think it's cheap. 1 year, $7 million. Not guaranteed. We don't have the complete terms yet, but what is known right now is he will get $7 million at least, up to $11 million, which means he's got some incentives that he could probably hit. And I would imagine that it will be based on receiving yards, maybe touchdowns. He only had 4 touchdowns last year, less than 600 receiving yards, 51 receptions. So there's lots of different ways you can build in to get him to $11 million. With not likely to be earned incentives. I think this is a great deal for Kansas City, and I think it opens up their draft. I think that's the biggest thing that it really does, is it gives them the ability to not have to go wide receiver early on. They should still consider going wide receiver, but when everybody knows what you're going to be going for, it kind of takes away from what you can do.
It does, and we talked about this on the Friday show, folks. That's been available for a couple of hours, but double down on that in the concept that Brett Veach likes to go out and secure a baseline that you could go into a season with if you had to. That's what happened with the wide receiver group last year. Couldn't get any free agents done, that kind of thing. You ended up with a wide receiver core that was good enough to let Rashee Rice grow and to get the job done enough to win a championship. But now you're able to kind of set the table a little bit better going into this coming season. So $7 million against the cap is a minimum. Again, that gap between the 7 and the 11 that is the max on this, which is incentive laden, and we should know the details on incentives here in the next couple of days. That allows you the grace to be able to make more signings, whether or not the L'Jarius Sneed trade actually happens.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. And there's been a couple of people that have actually said that it was thought that this would happen after the L'Jarius Sneed trade. So now they're doing the move beforehand, basically getting to a point where they're now telling everybody, we're willing to keep Sneed if we have to. I mean, I can't get much more willing to tell people than that in this scenario in my mind, because at this point, you have committed to that type of contract. It's going to cost you $7 million. You only had 15, and you've done some other signings since then. So you're probably really closer to maybe 3 or 4 million left on the cap if you don't move Sneed, and that's, you're going to have to make some moves to get your draft class signed. We can worry about all that later. I still think a Sneed deal gets done, but I think that this was the right move for them to do, because I think that they probably had a deal with him done for the past couple of days, hope that they could trade Sneed and it wouldn't be as big of an issue. But they're not going to let somebody hold their feet to the fire.
Again, we ran this down the other day, but want to reiterate that this is most likely a player with something to prove. Coming off of his worst season as a professional in terms of yardage, second worst in terms of touchdowns. This is a Marquise Brown that doesn't have much Hollywood left in him, at least not in recent history. He's looking to make that change in Kansas City, despite being Hollywood enough to have our names reversed on this one. I always love when we do that because it happens to be a prove-it deal for a guy who's been there and a guy who gives you a deep threat over the top. Much like McCole Hardman has in recent years, as you hoped MVS would be as well. We're going to have to see how he fits in and how the adjustment to the offense is, but certainly he's got enough wheels still to give Patrick a little bit more of that, hey, if you continue to come down and press me and play these games, I'll take advantage of you over the top.
Well, and go look at what Curtis Samuel got. We just talked about this on the Friday show, I believe. Curtis Samuel just got a contract, 3 years, $30 million, 24 million, somewhere in there. $8 million a year. That's more than what the Chiefs got Brown for. So, in my mind, I think this is a great move. This is a great sign that they're able to get a guy like this. And the best thing for the best thing for Hollywood, I apologize, is that he's able to come into this and basically just be a guy that can start practicing with Mahomes in the offseason right now. And he can get more acclimated to the offense, try to figure it out so he can be ready when the season starts, because this is a prove it deal. This is like what they did with Juju Smith-Schuster. This is the same type of move that they made there. So at this point, I think that this is a great move by Kansas City. I think that this is going to work out well for him, and they have that speed guy, and hopefully it's somebody that's more reliable than what MBS was. That's all they need. If they can have that guy that's over the top, it's really going to help this offense.
Yeah, and I don't think it precludes. Maybe it doesn't have to be a first-round selection, but I do think it allows you to have a little bit more flexibility. For those that are on the opposite side of this, like Billy, I've been there as well. I think his floor is McCole 2.0, where he fulfills a very niche role, and maybe you have some negatives with the positives. That certainly would be the tail of the tape if you were asking Ravens fans. You can go back a little bit and get back to that. But I do think that's the floor, and I think his ceiling is back where his initial upside was.
Yeah, and I would challenge that and say, has he really had a QB that, obviously no QB is Patrick Mahomes, but has he really had a QB that's maybe top 10 in passing?
That's the big question.
All of his QBs haven't been great in his time in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, even when he was there, wasn't really a pass-first QB. It was more running early on in the career, and then it started to become passing, and he had his best season, I think, in 2021 for over 1,000 yards. So if you get in that scenario where you can get a guy that can come in, even if he doesn't hit 1,000 yards, if he hits 700, 800 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns, you're going to be more than happy with paying whatever it's going to be in incentives that he hits.
Yeah, I'm very much in that same vein. I will be happy for it. Make sure you hit the text line if you want the inside information. It's 816-357-8781. This is a breaking news extra bonus episode. We will have a full breakdown for you coming. Don't worry about that. And I'll have more over on RGR as well. But that's our initial instant reaction. I hope you guys are happy with it. Another weapon for Patrick Mahomes goes a long way and gets them that much closer to their next step towards their three-peat. I'm pretty pumped about it, Chris. Overall, I would give this, a thumbs up easily, probably a B grade here.
Yeah, I definitely give it a thumbs up, and I think that this is something that could be a very high reward type signing and low risk for the amount of money you're paying him compared to what the wide receiver market usually gets. I think this is a slam dunk.
Well, there you go. Let's see what happens next, folks. Thanks for being with us for this breaking news on Hollywood Brown, the Chiefs' newest receiver, in there takes the top off of the defenses. We hope that you'll join us, and make sure that you like, sub, and hit the bell after you've seen this. We'll be back with you tomorrow, just like every day. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you then.